This feature needs to be rolled across the entire Marvel Rivals ranked competitive player base because it makes the game so much better. It is actually ridiculous. Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Stylosa. So we need to talk about hero bans in Marvel Rivals. So essentially this is the way it works at the moment. And in fact, it sounds crazy when I say this because more than, well, it's about 8% of the player base, I think, when you work it out, actually has access to hero bans in competitive. So this is diamond and above. There is one caveat where you need the entire team to be diamond and above, because I think if you play when you're on like the borderline of like you've just got into diamond, sometimes you can have platinum players on your team, in which case you won't actually get the hero ban system because it's not available to those players. But what I want to do in this video is analyze and just basically discuss why this needs to be rolled out across all the ranks, because it's going to make the game a lot better. And I also don't know how the hell we've been playing games like Overwatch for years and years without a hero ban system. It honestly feels criminal that it was never implemented into Overwatch 2, although I suspect it's going to be implemented into the game in the early months of next year. I'm pretty sure of that. But yeah, if you guys remember Overwatch 2, it was they had like a hero pool system where the developers, being typical Blizzard developers, were like, actually, no, we know best, and we'll tell you what heroes get banned this week, which was an insane way of doing it. Because there's one major benefit of having hero bans in the game is the players generally regulate the OP heroes, and we're seeing that happen in a very big way in Marvel Rivals. Anyway, let's break all of this down. So let's talk about the pros, and then we'll get onto the concerns of this system, because as ever, nothing is ever 100% a win. So I think the first thing we really need to talk about here is, I think at the lower ranks, you generally get heroes that are super dominant. And you'll see this as you go through the ranks as well. And yes, we do need to talk about Hela and Hawkeye. They're very powerful and they're very dominant, and they can take over a lobby. Now, the issue with this is once you start getting through the ranks, you get into Diamond, you'll see those heroes pretty much getting banned out quite a lot. And so they almost become redundant. So why were they able to just rain terror over the lower ranks and, you know, cause a lot of frustration for players? So I think that's a major thing to be aware of. It balances gameplay. Now, let me just explain this, because I know a lot of people will be like, well, no, you can't rely on players to balance the game, because players are idiots. They might ban heroes just because they see YouTubers say they don't like a hero, or players are idiots because they'll, you know, they've read something on a website or on Reddit and they'll ban that hero. No, players are not idiots, and they generally do get rid of the heroes that are broken and that do push the game in a direction they don't want it to be in. Think about Overwatch again. The game went through a very long time of the GOATs meta and other metas as well, whereas if you banned one hero, it would be all over. In the case of GOATs, I know I am talking a little bit of Overwatch here, if you banned Brig, there was no GOATs. You know what I mean? So you could just get rid of Brig and away you go. Yeah, there might have been other heroes you could substitute in to get a sort of version of it, but it wouldn't have been the same power. Instead, we had to wait for the developers to take action, and as we all know, they kind of didn't for a very long time. However, with Marvel Rivals, you've got this idea of the players effectively balancing the gameplay straight away. Obviously only at Diamond and above, but I'd like to see this across the entire competitive ranked set. So you think of dominant heroes like Hela and Hawkeye, well, they really impact games in a very strong way, let's say. But if you ban them, but then you just won't see them. And like I said, at higher ranks, Diamond and above, they do get banned, so you don't really see them. It does add another layer of kind of like strategic depth, I guess, where you do need to think about banning heroes. Now, again, this can be almost like a pro and a con, because, yeah, it makes the game more interesting because you've got a bit more to do on the hero select phase, let's say. You're picking heroes to ban and you're picking heroes to save, which obviously the way the system works is you've got 2 bans per team and then you've got a save per team. So you can say, you know, let's save a hero that isn't banned out. So if you don't get Hela or Hawkeye initially banned, you could use a save to, let's say, keep Hela, and the other team could then keep Hawkeye if they wanted to. But it does add another level of like strategic depth. I guess the argument against that would be, is it really much strategic depth if every game is literally having the same heroes banned? But we know that the way this game is balanced is every season there'll be different team ups, and also heroes get seasonal bonuses as well. So you might get other heroes that suddenly become a lot stronger, and a way to get rid of them would be to ban them. But every now and again, you might get a game with them in. This one could be a bit controversial, I think. So I think it actually makes the game a bit more fair. It might actually make the game a bit more enjoyable, because, again, if you think of the heroes you keep seeing in rank, especially before you get to Diamond, it can get a bit samey. It's like, oh, there's a Hela on the other team. I hope that Hela can't aim, but I've got news for you guys. because if it's anything like silver and above, the healer can probably aim, and it's going to be a hella bad time for you. Terrible pun. But you're going to get wrecked, right? You know it's going to be a problem. You're like, oh no. So I guess, like, in some ways, it does make the game fairer. Again, if these more OP, more stronger heroes are actually banned out of the equation. But like I said, there will be games where they don't get banned, and then things, you know, you're going to have to adapt on the fly there. But it is another strategic layer, and I definitely think it does. I think it does increase enjoyment. I really do. So by extension of increasing enjoyment, I also think it definitely reduces frustration, because you can get rid of these broken heroes. We've already seen it in this game so far, where they're heroes that are just really, really strong. And again, I want to use an Overwatch example here because it is so relevant. Heroes that just become ultra dominant and force a meta. It's okay for a while, but then you get bored of those heroes, and the answer on development studios like Blizzard was to heavily change, well, especially now with Overwatch 2, not so much with Overwatch 1, I should say, but with Overwatch 2, is to do a lot of balance changes, change everything up, whatever. They're taking control of it, rather than giving tools to the player base to go, actually, let's just see what these guys do if we let them ban these heroes. Will these heroes have high ban rates? Will they have low ban rates? All of that can come into the equation, but it basically, again, goes back to this self-imposed balance idea. But I think it does remove frustration, because nobody, and take this from somebody who played Overwatch and still does play Overwatch, but played it since literally the closed alpha. When metas stagnate, you stop playing the game. Now, I'm not saying hero bans completely fix that problem, because, well, you end up with a ban meta, which is stale, I guess you could argue. Obviously, there's chance for variation every now and again, but with an actual meta that's set in stone because heroes are super strong and you can't ban them, you end up in a scenario where every game is played the same way. Again, the Overwatch example, you had the GOATS meta, 3 tanks, 3 supports. That was it. You aren't even using DPS heroes. That's not great for the game. So obviously, you know, you had to wait for the developers to come in and make changes. That isn't the case with Marvel Rivals, because you can get rid of these annoying heroes. And you do see interesting things happen, where you might be a Hela main and you can get up to Diamond, and then you're screwed. You need to learn other heroes. And that's kind of like a really big pro of this as well. It kind of goes against being a one-trick. And being a one-trick is a whole debate in and of itself, because normally in hero shooter games, one-tricking is the fastest way to rank up. But if you're one-tricking in a game with hero bans, it isn't, because you'll get banned, especially if you're using a hero which is quite strong, you know? It's very interesting, isn't it? I suppose this leads on to the idea of meta stagnation, right? You don't want the meta to stagnate. If you let the players ban heroes, it changes the meta almost every game. Yeah, there will be a perceived ban meta where you need to ban certain heroes and whatnot, and you'll see that probably amplified at higher levels, where everyone is banning the super OP heroes. Because again, it's the same thing in a lot of different games, but if you've got, I'll use Hela, I'm really ragging on Hela in this video, but she does need a massive. If you take her and you've got a player that has got cracked aim and they do not miss, they will just destroy you. And if they can play that hero at higher ranks, they're going to own the lobby. But in Rivals, you can ban them. They need to play a different hero. They might play Punisher, still effective, but it isn't destroying you with 2 taps across the map. You know, so there's a big difference there. It allows for a lot more variety in the gameplay. So again, it is this idea of it deals with meta stagnation, I think, in an interesting and good way. But I do think it will maybe cause a bit of meta stagnation at the higher level, but I think for almost everybody else, it's going to be a massive win. And talking of everybody else, this is the idea again of it needs to be consistent across all of the ranks, and it isn't at the moment. It's almost like a different game inside of the game. So you've got quick play, and then you move into competitive, and then you're going through the ranks in competitive. There's no role selection, there's no enforced role queue or anything like that, and the devs said they're not going to introduce that. Not yet, anyway. So you don't have that, so it is a kind of a free-for-all. But you'll notice, as you start going through the ranks, you're going through silver, gold, platinum, team comps start to get built. You'll start to see 2 tanks, 2 supports, 2 DPS, or at least 1 tank. And generally, you always see 2 supports. I know there's games out there where you'll just be like, oh god, everyone's playing DPS or some craziness. That's going to happen in these games. It's just whatever, it's going to happen. But there generally is a meta that starts to sort of, or like a perceived way of playing the game, a perceived framework of the team comp that starts to arise as you're going through the ranks. And then boom, you hit Diamond and suddenly hero bans are thrown in. I don't think it makes sense to have it as delayed as it is in the ranked progression system. I think the only reason they've done that is right now there's a lot of players who are playing the game, maybe haven't played a hero shooter before, maybe are, you know, playing a bunch of games in the lower ranks, and it's almost like additional headache for them to have to deal with hero bans, and they might not fully understand it as well. Like, imagine if you are playing loads of Hela, and then Hela's banned. You'll be like, what is this? Like, I've just played loads of her in quick play. I can't even play her in comp. This is super frustrating and super annoying. It also, again, to use Overwatch as an example here, I think one of the reasons why Overwatch doesn't allow for hero bans, or didn't allow in the past, and hopefully it will in the future, is they really don't want people to not be able to play the hero they want to play. So in Overwatch, if you joined as a tank and you wanted to play Reinhardt, you're going to be able to play Reinhardt, especially in Overwatch 2 now, because you're the only tank. Reinhardt isn't banned. You can play him if you want. Even if he's perceived as being bad, you'll be able to play him at whatever rank you want. In Rivals, if Reinhardt was perceived as being absolutely OP, you could just ban him, and then it wouldn't matter. So it is a very interesting thing to think about, that is. So if those were the pros, and I think I've pretty much summed up what I think should happen with this system, the fact that it should be rolled out across all of the ranks, and it would just make the game better straight away. Let's talk about the concerns, because there are concerns. This isn't, as I said, it's not just a win-win. It isn't, oh yeah, run hero bans across the entire rank ladder and it'll be fine. Because there are some issues. So let's just get stuck into this. Players won't know who to ban, especially new players. They'll have no idea. Imagine being faced with a hero ban system the first day you played Rivals. I wouldn't know who to ban. I wouldn't know who was OP. Who would I think? In fact, my very first gameplay video on this channel is me playing Black Widow, killing everybody. Literally, I made her look like she was absolutely broken, giga OP, but I'm playing people who don't even know how to play the game. I don't even know how to play the game myself. I'm just relying on aim, which I've built up over years of playing games. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll just play the hero that's kind of like a sniper, doesn't have a one-shot, but can do decent damage, and you're just farming everyone. Well, the moment you go into competitive with that, you're just going to get absolutely annihilated, right? But I might think, you know what, I want to ban Black Widow. Because, again, maybe I'm thinking I'm coming from Overwatch, and Widowmaker's super OP in that game. So, maybe I'm going to ban the Widowmaker style sniper in this game. Or I should say Widowmaker is the Black Widow style, whatever. Obviously, Black Widow comes literally 50 years before Widowmaker in Overwatch 2. But, like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think new players generally will know who to ban, and it might be seen as quite a confusing thing. But I think that very quickly goes after, you play the game for a couple of hours. You start looking at content online. You're going to think very quickly, oh, yeah, these are the heroes we need to ban. Also, that might have a negative effect on those heroes, in that their playtime will just collapse. And if you have invested in those heroes, maybe even monetarily through skins, you might be super pissed. So yeah, new players might not know who to ban. And the flip side of this, which is also a major concern, is the bans might actually discourage the new and the casual players from actually playing the game, because you won't get to play all of the heroes, and you won't get to experience all of the heroes. Now, I think one of the best ways to learn this game is to just play the heroes, right? Especially in competitive, as crazy as that sounds. I know going into comp, you should be thinking, I'm playing my best heroes, I'm playing for the win. But it's the most competitive format. So if you want to learn magic, which I've been doing today, go and play her in comp, and it's a much better experience than it is playing in quick play, because it's more structured. Yeah, you could use quick play for getting the abilities down and the combos and whatever, but actually the game itself, it's just better in competitive. So being able to select every hero, it is a really big bonus, and it's not going to discourage you because you can't select the hero. And I think that is a very viable concern if bans were pushed across the whole sort of spectrum of ranked. So talking of the whole spectrum, does bronze need bans? Does silver need bans? Do we bring the bans in at gold level? This is interesting, right? Because I've been of the mindset of I just put them in every single rank, because it is a function of ranked, and hopefully if you start off at bronze, you will get through to diamond, and then you'll experience the ban system. So you may as well just experience it straight away. But there is one issue here, isn't there? Basically, if you because there's no bans in lower ranks, it will allow super strong heroes to... how can I phrase this? Basically, because there's no bans at lower ranks, you could pick a hero and not even know the hero's broken, farm the lobby and think, my God, this game is great. It's the best thing ever. You know what I mean? And then you're like, yeah, I'm going to keep playing the game. Is that even a fair thing to say? I don't know. But I think that's something the game developers would take into account. Because again, it's similar to like the MVP system in Rivals itself. Again, going over to Overwatch, it's like the play of the game system. You get play of the game, especially in those early days, you felt amazing. My first play of the game was Soldier using his tac visor, which is literally an aimbot. And it made me think, oh shit, I'm amazing. I'm sick at this game. No, I'm not. I'm terrible. I press one button. But that's kind of what you get if you do play a stronger hero at the lower ranks. It's interesting, isn't it, that is? But I also think that if hero bans were in those matches, it'd sort of balance them, and I guess saying it balance them is a bit ridiculous, but again, it just exposes the players to the ban system very early on, and it is an integral part of competitive. So this is both a pro and a con, because it basically means you can't one trick. Because if you one trick and your hero is an OP hero and then it gets banned, what the hell do you do? Now, this is similar to the issue you get in Overwatch. This is why there's a different rank queue for every single class of hero, so your tank, support, and DPS. You can't... And I suppose... because in Rivals, you can still select every hero, right? So this is a bit of a loose example, but what I'm trying to say here is, imagine if you were... we need to keep this role specific, don't we, I suppose? But basically, if you're playing Hela, we're still ragging on Hela. Hela's banned. Who do you play? You're not going to play support. You're not going to play tank. You could do. But maybe, instead of the strategist and the Vanguard, you then have to pick up Punisher. But you're not really familiar with his kit. Yeah, you can still aim. You're still doing damage, but you're not really using his kit to his full advantage. Therefore, you are not playing at the level your Hela is at. Therefore, you shouldn't be at the rank you're at. Now, we've had this debate for years and years and years and years with Overwatch, where you get players, before Roll Queue came in, who were like incredible on tank, and then maybe there were too many tanks in a game they joined, or there were no support, so they had to play support, or nobody was willing to play support. But they may have been Grandmaster level tank, but only a gold level support in a Grandmaster game, because the game just put their rank all together. Now, these are issues that I think are going to come down the line with Marvel Rivals, because there's no roll queue. So you'll see times where, hey, I might be playing Mantis, but somebody selects Mantis and somebody else is playing another support. We don't really want three, so I need to go and play DPS, let's say, and just for argument's sake, let's say my DPS isn't as strong. But I think this is where Marvel Rivals can really differentiate itself from the crowd, because it is a game at the moment, because it doesn't have the ranked roll queue system, where one tricking is not great. You need to be flexible. If you're a flexible player and you can look at the enemy team comp and think, how can I pick a hero which I know I can play to a good level that will counter what the enemy are doing, or what hero can I play on my team where there's a great team up and I'm going to get a bonus. Like Iron Man's always the example I use here at the moment in Season 0 anyway, where, yeah, you got Hulk on your team, just play Iron Man because you're going to get that massive damage boost. And also, if you're a tank, definitely play Strange because, again, you're going to get that gamma damage boost. So it's like, that's a very simple way of reading it. But again, you need to be able to play these heroes. And I think this is why, when you're playing competitive, try not to shoehorn yourself into one hero and one trick. Think, okay, I'm going to play a couple of games as this hero, a couple of games as that hero. Try and spread it around. And also, one big thing this does is it gets you familiar with the hero kits, so you can counter the heroes better. I can tell you guys straight away from today, I was playing Magic, and I wasn't entirely sure how Magic's little portals worked, but I now know how they work. So I know she's not going to get loads of vertical mobility off that. I know she can offer charge forward, but not off a portal. And I know she's going to do a big AoE attack or spawn the little demon thing, which again will do damage over time in an area. So I know what she does. And I know if she uses 2 portals, she ain't going to be using another one dead quick, so I can push her. These are all like bits of knowledge that you learn, and you only learn that through playing the hero or playing against the hero loads more times. It's a lot more effective just actually playing the hero. So I do think a concern, though, as this kind of sounds like a pro, but a concern of this is, yeah, if you're specialised in one hero, if you are a one-trick, well, then this isn't going to be great for you because you're going to get banned. There's also an element at the very highest level here where this will have a massive impact, because as time goes on, players will get known for the hero that they play. Again, using Overwatch as an example, there's a lot of very famous players out there in Overwatch who are known for one hero. Maybe they can play 2 heroes, but generally one super good specialist. There was a lot of Doomfist pros and Doomfist ladder players who were just insane, and they could do things that you didn't even think were possible. Imagine if you could ban that hero. You'd ban the hero, what do they do? And they get the hero banned in every game. Now, this is where the game itself can help with this, because if it shows the players' names before the ban phase, you can do targeted bans. If it doesn't, then you can't do targeted bans. But this will happen in Rivals. Eventually, you will get to know the players, especially at the highest level. If you watch Twitch streamers, you'll definitely see Twitch streamers. It'll be like, oh yeah, that person's a tank main. Maybe they're great on Strange. We're always going to ban Strange. There's always going to be arguments coming in where you might have a Strange on your team that's like, no, don't ban the Strange. Obviously, the captain's doing the bans as well in the team, so there's all of this dynamic going on. But I do think overall, this is a net positive for Rivals. I think there are things the game can do to help, though. At the moment, I think a lot of the major negatives in my head are just basically through player education. If you don't know who should be banned, then what the hell do you do? If you're out there innocently playing the game and you're actually playing one of the heroes that is perceived to be like broken, and then that hero gets banned as you start getting into the diamond levels and above in comp, you're not going to feel particularly great. So it's almost like the game needs some sort of tutorial system or some system inside the game where it becomes apparent what heroes maybe need to be banned. But again, the problem with that is that could be seen as developers actually saying, oh yeah, ban this hero. Look at this. Imagine in the game if you had like a most banned hero list for the week, you'd just keep banning the most banned heroes unless you knew the name of the player on the enemy team and thought, hey, that's a specialized Hulk player, I'm going to ban Hulk. You know what I mean? It is interesting, right? But what I want you guys to do in the comments below is let me know what you think about this. I do think, looking at the whole sort of situation of hero bans, I think it's crazy to me that this has really been my first exposure to that system. It was great seeing it at the competitive level as well, in a hero shooter, where it really dynamically changes the game, because hero bans were not always the same, especially at the pro level. I know the pro scene is very early for this game, but in the game that we looked at, the finals of the Invitational, heroes were getting banned that you didn't really expect to get banned, and it makes other heroes really strong. So again, if you're banning Hela and you're banning Hawkeye, but let's just use Hela as the example, then you've suddenly got, well, Iron Man has got free reign in the sky, and Iron Man with Hulk is very strong. If Hulk isn't banned, take Iron Man Hulk combo all day long, and yeah, it's going to be effective. There are ways of dealing with the Iron Man. You take a Punisher, right? Punisher's going to have some effect on the Iron Man, or you could take other hit scan, you know, or Hawkeye, just land a headshot or whatever. But there's a lot of different ways where hero bans come into effect, and hero bans are good. Hero bans change the game. It's a very complicated topic. I think you could talk for hours and hours and hours on. But in this video, I just kind of wanted to give you a stream of thoughts on my pros, my cons, and sort of like, I don't know, like, I can't really call them cons, like addressing the concerns of the system. But I do think overall, this is really good. And I can't believe this hasn't been in games like Overwatch. It hits so good. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below, guys. Do you think the ban system should be rolled out across all of the ranks? Or do you think it should just be lowered maybe to like gold or silver level? Or do you think it should be got rid of completely? Or, well, and the devs should just balance their game? Or do you think it should actually be increased and only available in tournaments and stuff like that? Alright guys, I've been Stylosa. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed that, then yeah, let me know what you think about all of it in the comments below. Do like the video. That helps an absolute ton, and sub into the channel as well helps a load as well. And yeah, I'll catch you lovely lot on the next video. See you soon.